आहेत आणि बेसिकली त्यांचा जर एक्सपिरियन्स पाहिला तर ते 2006 पासून या फील्डमध्ये आहेत. बिझनेस प्रोसेस ऑडिट्स, इंटरनॅशनल स्टँडर्ड्स, मॅनेजमेंट कन्सल्टन्सी अँड स्ट्रॅटेजिक प्लॅनिंग, बिझनेस प्रोसेस अँड रिइंजिनिअरिंग, इनडायरेक्ट टॅक्सेस, लिटिगेशन सपोर्ट, असा हा त्यांचा एक्सपिरियन्स आहे. आणि त्याच्या आधी ते 3 वर्ष प्राइस वॉटर हाऊस मध्ये होते. त्यांचं करंट प्रोफाईल असं आहे, करंटली सर्व्हिंग इन हिज क्लायंट्स बेस्ड इन इंडिया अँड UAE मल्टीनॅशनल कॉर्पोरेट्स MSMEs. He is also founding member of KM Corporate Solution as a reputed consultancy and taxation firm operational at Kolhapur, Pune, Mumbai, Belgaum. He is a partner in direct taxes in PRF Management Consultancy Dubai, UAE, and had implemented UAE VAT for various industries such as aviation, shipping, IT, construction, service, and industry. Other credentials असं जर पाहिलं तर he has conducted more than 70 trainings on GST on entrepreneurs, industrial accounts, chartered accounts, GST officials, various organizations, and general public on various occasions. He, being an expert over UAE VAT laws, has conducted more than 20 seminars for awareness of UAE VAT law at various locations in Dubai, Abu Dhabi. Uh, he regularly writes articles on taxation, Taxman publications, and monthly ICAI e-newsletter. He runs a channel on YouTube as Easy GST for You, which has explanatory videos on GST laws India and what VAT laws UAE. Associated with eminent charitable trust at Kolhapur, providing medical and educational relief. Regularly representing trade and industrial associations for various technical practical problems on MVAT and GST before administration. तर असं हे व्यक्तिमत्व कोल्हापूरचं आहे आणि आज आपला योग आहे की आपण त्यांचा उपयोग करून घेणार आहे. नाऊ कुलकर्णी साहेब, द डायस फोरम is with you, and I wish you all the best for the audience. Thank you. Now you can continue.
Thank you so much, sir. Just one question. Am I audible to all?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Right. Just give me a moment. I will start sharing my presentation on the screen. Can you see the presentation on the screen?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes.
So, okay to go, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. At the outset, I would like to thank the Managing Committee of Confederation of Indian Industry South Maharashtra Zonal Council, all the dignitaries who are visible on the screen and also off the screen, for giving me this wonderful opportunity for sharing my views in the today's webinar. And special thanks to Mallarji for the introduction that he gave in the beginning. Frankly, it's my extreme honor and it's really a pleasure to address the eminent entrepreneurs through this forum, which has always been proactive in dealing with various aspects of trade and industry. Moreover, this session is very special because I'm conducting this session after missing 2 attempts. Because in February 2020, if I remember correctly, 2 members of CII approached me in one of the seminar where I was addressing a couple of trade associations for GST intricacies. And there we discussed about proposed session in the month of March 2020, but due to COVID, maybe it got cancelled. Thereafter, another opportunity to address the webinar on GST refund was there, but the timings couldn't match. So it's great to be with all of you. And let's start with the session. Just pardon me because I'm looking at 2 screens. One screen I'm sharing the presentation, and the second screen I'm connected to the software wherein we are conducting the webinar. If you see, the name of the topic that is selected today is very carefully drafted one. And when we say that surviving through COVID, one can really understand. But thriving, which is on the contrary, which means go up or show growth, is a little funny, because I hope at the end of this session, if I end up adding some value to your organizations through this webinar, then I would be really happy if I do so. So let's start with the also there are two parts in this particular webinar. One is obviously on the guide for surviving and thriving, and secondly on some specific GST legal issues about which are COVID specific, which are really connected with the COVID scenario. So their session will be divided into two sessions. And then thereafter, maybe if the time permits and if there are any queries, we will take up. We'll invite the question at the end. So first part, surviving and thriving through COVID for entrepreneurs. So nowadays, if we look around, we don't see much of the positivity in any of the fields. May it be industry, may it be on personal fronts or health fronts, the situation is not normal. Except the positive cases of COVID affected numbers, nothing is really positive around. So I would really like to start this session on a positive note. I don't know the writer of this particular quote that you can see on the screen, but it's very appealing in this current scenario and the recessionary trends which are seen in the economy. If you search on Google about 6 things Darwin never said, then you probably will get this, the first one. It says it is not the strongest of the species that survives, nor the most intelligent that survives. It is the one that is most adaptable to change. And I think this is this 100% applicable to the current industrial setback. No matter how big or small the enterprise is, no matter how efficiently it works or it was profitable in the past also, but one who is most adaptable to the changes which are happening around and the changing scenarios due to these unforeseen events that those are happening currently in the world would only survive through this particular crisis. As I mentioned, thrive actually, because change is the only constant thing on the earth. So whenever I have conducted any webinars on COVID related and economy related aspects, then the most frequently asked question that is coming up is that will the world change inside out as far as the international trade relations are concerned? And the question is pretty obvious, as there have been temporarily insecurities in every sphere of life. We can't move much. Our routine is disturbed. Our activities are restricted. And there are so many things around us, especially the media is constantly showing us as to how the relationship among the global giants, different countries are disturbed, and how global trade is on the verge of getting collapsed. So this gives us very little hope to believe in a thought that something positive will soon happen. But saying that, I would like to mention, I would sincerely would like to put down some facts here about how the vaccines actually, vaccine work is happening around the world. So just to brief you about this is not the core topic of our today's discussion, but I just want to brief up about the process. The scientists from different countries, including USA, China, France, Italy, England, and few other countries are working together, which is not a normal scenario if we observe, because usually when it is about inventing something or anything, publishing anything, so they maintain a high level secrecy about their publishing papers, because they are getting paid in terms of grants. Also the flag of their country is getting all the credit. So usually they maintain the confidentiality, but here on the contrary, they are regularly updating the research findings may be done by any of the countries through a conference line at World Health Organization. And China, as we all know, has already successfully decoded what is called as genome code of this virus, which is very crucial for this vaccine research. So they are working in a peace and harmony. Also, we probably are many of this the members of this forum are probably aware that Serum Institute of Pune has got a positive yes in terms of mass production of this vaccine when it is ready, and a Norwegian government has already confirmed their will to finance this particular activity. So only differences are among the politicians who are representing the countries maybe, and who have a very little contribution to this vaccine process. So as far as this vaccine is concerned, I'm pretty sure that all these countries, and also as far as dealing with this particular scenario is concerned, all these countries are working hands in hands. Also, as far as the international trade is concerned, because the question is related to the relation between the countries as far as trade is concerned. Secondly, I would like to consider the history of international trade, which is approximately about 1000+ years old, in which major contributors were India, South Europe, Greece, then some of the Arabic countries, Rome. We also know that the Aden was one of the important harbor as far as this trade was concerned. So during this period of about 1000 years, forget 1000 years, in last 100 years, there have been so many obstacles. For example, various flus were there. In probably 1400 century, plague came, which took about 1/3 of the Europe's population. Then Spanish flu was another example. Then Hong Kong flu was a recent example, which took lives about of 20 lakhs people, versus the corona, which has claimed about 7.78 lakhs up till date. So in 2000, also in 2008 to 10, there were recessionary trends that were observed across the global economy, and the trade is everybody thought that now the trade is over and the global trade would get a big hit. But after a couple of years, everything is back to normal. I think terrorist attacks is the best example, because then people start worrying about visiting those countries, having trade relation with those countries for a couple of months, and then everything is back to normal. So if you ask me, maximum it would the impact would remain about one and a half year. That's it, but not more than that. And when the question is that will the world change inside out as far as the international trade is concerned? So the hidden question here is, what is the time that we are looking at for this recovery cycle? So to answer that question, how and why I say about 1.5 to 2 years is that on the screen you can observe there are two shapes, and usually there is something called as recovery shapes. When an economy enters into a recessionary trend, it recovers also, because it is a cyclical thing, and the recovery takes a certain period of time. So that depending upon that time frame, if we plot it on the graphs, we usually get these graphs. So V in comparison is a relatively quicker recovery, which is about 2 to 3 quarters on an average. If you consider U, it is a little late recovery, which is about 2 to 2.5 years. And there are other curves shapes also, which is like L or W, which takes huge time for getting back the economy on a normal phase. The example of which could be the Great Economic Depression, ज्याला आपण महामंदी म्हणत होतो 1929 सालची. So I think that lasted about for 10 years. So if you ask me, and if you see the the research papers of some of the greatest economists of the world, they say that the shape of this particular recovery could be somewhere between V and U. So max to max it would be around 1.5 to 2 years max, but won't go beyond that. So to give the idea in a nutshell, if we see the financial year 2021 Q1, we can treat it as a complete washout for many of the organizations, majority of the organizations. Q2 may be a starting of the recovery phase. Then Q3 would be a little bit stabilization in terms of regular activities of business are concerned, and probably Q4 would be restart of the growth. So that is how it looks like. So what is the way ahead if we try to assess? So in one of the forum by Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, I got an opportunity to interact with one of the senior chartered accountants, CA RB Jaju, who happens to be a CFO, Chief Financial Officer of DB Power Limited. And he talked about how they managed to do well in this crisis, as their product is basically, the power, and which is covered by the essential services. So by and large, if we try to sum up those things, we can divide the strategies into four major parts, as you can see on your screen. One is liquidity, second is profitability, third is sustainability, and fourth is predictability. And we are going to discuss in detail about all these four aspects in this complete presentation. So important part is to create task force around these four aspects and work. Now, at least we need 3 task force to work around. First, maybe financial task force, which would look after your cash flow management, etc. Second would be your supply chain task force, which would look after and monitor around your vendors, logistic management, and ensuring that your production is uninterrupted, etc. And third, and very crucial, is IT transformation task force, which would look after the digital upgradation, training, automation, etc. areas, which are of key importance in the current scenario. So now let us discuss all these 4 aspects which needs attention of every entrepreneur. So let's start with the liquidity slide. I hope the slides are visible on the screen.
Yeah, visible.
Okay. So when we say liquidity, what are we expected to actually do about it? So depending upon the type of industry, this COVID scenario has affected in various degrees to various organizations, but the issue of liquidity is common everywhere almost. So usually in a downturn, the cash reserves and revenue fall faster as compared to the expenditure cycle. So the key point here is that adopting a strategy to convert the major items into cash and cash equivalents, because after all, cash is the king. So if we have to talk about cash conservations, largely it can be done into 3 approaches, as you can see on the screen. First is cost reduction, that is accountant's approach, I would say, which we will look more about in the profitability aspect rather than liquidity aspect. The second one would be additional revenue, which is the marketing approach. Now, how this can be attained? There are different ways and means in which this can be done. One has to see that the enterprise specific factors, which are the enterprise specific factors, and analyze those factors, and then conclude on that particular aspect of additional revenue. Now, I will try to mention a few examples here just to give you an idea as to how in these difficult times an additional revenue approach can be easily implemented. First example, I will give you Tata Sky. So during lockdown, they were not able to increase the number of connections and the consumers. So the strategy which was adopted by them was to make additional channels, TV channels available at reasonable rates so that the people sitting at home may watch more television and their revenues went up. In one of the cases, what we did as a strategic call was that we tried assessing the sales tracking loss. You know, what is the sales tracking loss? I will give you one example to understand. If let's say a customer has ordered a quantity of 100 units and we supplied 80 units to them as a fulfillment of that particular order. Then we took up the next order, we started processing, and in line we completed all the orders. Then we assessed the reasons. I mean, took up such cases and tried to find out the reason why the order was not completed to 100 units, why only 80. Then was there not an effective planning around that particular production cycle? Was there some issue with the raw material availability, or probably the labor issues which withheld the production guys to complete the order, etc. So probably when we started addressing this issue and you come up with a management plan to work around these things, and even if we could tap 50% of such issues, it drastically resulted into about 2 to 3% of the increased turnover. So that is what we called as sales tracking loss. So that is another technique which is used in these difficult times to increase the cash inflows. In other cases, what we did as a strategic call was that we tried assessing the sales, we tried considering the inventory stocking up levels. So we tried to find out which orders were discontinued by customers, and the inventory is still stocked up. So as a matter of fact, these cases could have been picked up earlier, and some call could have been taken. But in often in the normal day-to-day business running, we don't find time to do all these procedures separately. But if we put control, we can also address those issues. But so pandemic recession is the best opportunity to clear such stock quantities which are lying with us, which we had stocked up earlier, considering that there would be demand, but couldn't get sold off due to various reasons, and clear that inventory maybe at a discounted rate and generate the additional cash flow. So that is another possible ways in which the revenue can be increased. Also, you can consider certain items, like for example, if power and fuel is concerned, probably coal is the supposedly very crucial items for many industries. So considering the current coal prices which are offered by major giants like Coal India, etc., they are actually not charging any premium, and the prices are good. So one may think of stocking up such items so that the rate fluctuations in the future, or maybe availability, would not hamper the production line. So these measures can be taken effectively. Third is utilizing all the relaxations. Now this is very important, and I think many of you are aware that there have been so many relaxations given by or reliefs which are given by central and state government. I am not personally the expert on that particular area. In one of my entity, there is a partner who exclusively looks after these subsidies and various relaxations and financing related areas. But maximum utilization of all such possibilities should be the aim of the organization to conserve the cash flows. Also, to give you an example, there are due dates to pay taxes, and if you don't pay the taxes within that due date, then some interest or late fee is charged by the authorities. Now, considering this COVID scenario, there have been various packages by the Honorable Finance Minister which are given to MSMEs. So I think most of them are concerning with the due dates extension. So I think the organization should be in a position to completely exploit such extended due dates and make the payments accordingly, so that the working capital gap is bridged and the cash flow is positively retained. So that is another aspect. Going to the next aspect, which is about capex management. I think as far as capex is concerned, many of the members who are attending this webinar probably have worked on this particular area already by deferring the majority of the capital expenditure, which was supposed to be happening in this particular Q1 of 2021, and only sticking and incurring those without which the function of the enterprise is impossible. But when capex is concerned, I can assure you that the devil lies in details. If we break down all the capex plan line by line item, then we can take up a call as to whether we can actually go for the expenditure, whether we can defer the expenditure. If the capex is already incurred and the payment is due, then can we ask for certain discounts, or can we defer the payment further? 3-6 months to about a year of deferment would actually result into great cash flow balancing. So that is the strategy one can actually implement. One of our clients from Pune, who is a software company, which had planned and ordered 25 air conditioned machines in March first week. And when we did this exercise in March last week, they had to cancel all the orders, considering that that is a non-priority considering the changed COVID scenarios. And majority of those people, their human resource was not able to attend the offices also. So accordingly, these calls can be taken. Coming to the next point, working capital management. Now, the capital which is required for, let's say, raw materials or packing material, etc., we usually have defined certain levels wherein we order the quantities, that is the reorder level, etc., which are usually set up in an organization. Now the entity has to now rework on these levels, reconsider at what levels they should order. Because the scenarios are changed, the availability of material is a question mark. The rates at which it is available is also a question mark. So which may go up and down. The levels may go up and down, and will bring a huge quantum of change in the working capital availability either or requirements. That is another portion. Now receivable management. The organization has to look into the facts if it can actually negotiate for the rates with which were agreed before earlier at the earlier period before COVID. So but while making this particular activity, one should also ensure that it is a win-win situation and the vendors are not getting exploited, because if no or less payment to the vendors means that less payment to their workers, their workforce, and once their workforce is disturbed, ultimately resulting into the disturbance in the their final product, which is again your raw material in another cycle. So it should be done in an appropriate manner. So a little discount will do no harm. We have advised our clients to categorize their vendors into A, B, and C category, from most important to least important, and then start negotiating from the bottom of the pyramid for the rates from C to A, because they will also gain, as the others are currently not willing to pay them. So at least we are paying them, and in return we are gaining some discounts. So in fact, many big corporates have actually made advance payments to their crucial vendors in order to ensure that their production line does not get hampered due to this adverse COVID scenario. If you observe, these strategies are not something which is very unconventional or out of box thinking, but disciplined and with a level of granularity, detailing all the things, and proper follow-up action. If we actually implement these strategies, so you can see a huge change or shift in the cash liquidity of any organization. Also, many owners who used to sit with the cash flows on a weekly basis, who are our clients, now are spending daily 1 hour for cash flows and managing it, and which is resulting into good liquidity positioning. So that is also very important. Now coming to the profitability aspect, this is the second aspect after liquidity. Hello. Should I continue?
Yeah, some noise was there. Yeah, continue.
Okay. So coming to the profitability aspect, out of the 4 aspects, profit is usually the end result of a business activity, but it is the most crucial one from the entrepreneur's perspective. So though it is said that the current year profit and loss can be ignored grossly, and the concentration should be on more on balance sheet and making sure that the balance sheet doesn't weaken in the long run, which is true. But efforts can also be made in order to increase the profitability, which is with the available strategies and resources. So how we can do that? So concentration should be on the discretionary spends. So cost which is kind of advertisement, traveling is anyway, it is restricted by regulatory measures. But such certain costs which can be avoided or incurred to a bare minimum level, we should incur it to the bare minimum level. Then reduction of cost through digital format. For example, commissions. Now this is also a classic case. If in normal case, when the commissions are paid up to 3 to 4% on sales in a physical, you can resource those particular activities on an online mode, and through digitization you can reduce those commission payments to around 0.5 to 1%. So bringing a paradigm shift into this particular the way it works. All the insurance companies have actually started making this. They have started making all policies on click, and with I think without they are saving all the commission portion there, and they are getting a good response in this particular pandemic scenario. Then we can always avoid extraordinary expenditures. Now coming to the very important question of retention versus layoff. Now can you just excuse me, because I am just getting some bandwidth message here. Is there any problem with the internet from their side? Hello.
Yes,
Hello.
sir. Your voice is perfectly audible. You can continue, sir.
I'm just getting one message for the bandwidth. I think I should switch off the video and then continue.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
that
So
will
that
be
will,
better.
yeah.
Right.
That will be better.
Yeah, the screen is visible to you all.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
A screen means your presentation screen?
Yes.
No, sir. Your presentation is not visible.
आता या मोमेंटला नाहीये आतापर्यंत. हा आता
Yeah,
झालं.
but now the presentation is visible.
Okay, for time being, I have just closed my video so that I can utilize the bandwidth for speaking.
Okay.
Yeah, sure. Now you are audible. You can speak.
Okay, so
Yes, sir. You have then mute yourself. Please unmute. Yeah, you can speak now.
okay. So coming back to the profitability aspect, through digital sources, we can reduce certain costs such as commission, as we discussed. Also, we can avoid certain extraordinary expenditure. Now, very important question currently faced by all the organization is that whether the employees should be retained or the layoff should be considered. So that has different aspects, considering that whether probation should be continued or those should be removed or those should be made to the permanent category, bonuses should be declared or not, increment should be given or not. So it will ultimately boil down to the philosophy of the organization, and the hot potato question is to take the difficult call or to go for funding to source these payments. So one may look into the different out of box thinking in this particular area, wherein they can try finding the white elephants. For example, the resources, including human resources, where a lot of cost is invested, but return of investment is not that great. But the decision should be made from the long-term perspective. Also, some different thinking example is Infosys, because Infosys employees used to ask for a huge rise, huge increments in the pay salaries, and Infosys came up with an option that after 3 years of completion of the service, they can opt for employee stock option scheme. So similar means and ways need to be considered for dealing with this very important question of whether retention or layoff should be considered. Then going to the next slide. Now, sustainability. So this is very important aspect out of these four aspects, as far as these four aspects are concerned. And let me tell you, before corona also, there are three important viruses which have destroyed organizations like anything. So probably first would be entrepreneurs on denial mode. So that denial can be for anything, maybe for financial weaknesses or financial transparency, ignoring that, or ignorance towards the fraud happening within the organization, ignoring that, or ignorance towards the new technological developments, ignoring that, customer taste changes, ignoring that. I think new technology and customer change example is Nokia. We are very well versed with that example. Second is entrepreneurs going on arrogance mode. Once a certain milestone is achieved or certain success is achieved, a few entrepreneurs may think that they are smarter and no one can copy their products, and the entire attitude changes, and it boils down to the enterprises employee level, and the entire the complete atmosphere around the organization is converted into a different set of environment altogether. So that is important aspect one has to consider. The third is obsession with leverage. Obsession with leverage means over dependence on the debt, especially after 2008. One reason may be financial advisor giving wrong advisory, etc. But there has been seen a lot of obsession and over reliance on the debt or borrowings aspect. And what happens when we have over borrowings or over debt and over leverage. We have seen it through Anil Dhirubhai Ambani Group's live case in front of us. So that is also one important aspect. So these three viruses are needed to be dealt in as far as sustainability of any organization is concerned before the corona and COVID crisis. Also choosing customers and vendors carefully, that this we have learned through taxation legislatures very well now. If the customer is not proper, he will deduct the TDS on your payments when the service is concerned, and they will not deposit it. It is a financial loss to the entity. When the vendors are not proper, they will sell you with GST, won't show the GST into their returns, won't pay GST to the government. Then that amount is ultimately recovered from you. So choosing your customers and vendors carefully is something that one has to work around. And I think COVID is the best time for them to assess their previous past regarding these two aspects. Then concentrating on the core competency. I would like to give you an example of Blue Star Air Conditions. I think in 1996-97, you can.
गेलेलेच आहे ना स्क्रीन गेलेलीच नाही.
Hello. They were providing all air conditioning solutions before that, but therein they decided that they would only concentrate on centralized air conditioning solutions, and ultimately they grew, and growth was in all.
Vishwanath here.
Yes.
Vishwanath,
Yeah.
your slides are not matching what he is talking about.
Yes, sir. Screen पुढे गेलेलं नाहीये.
प्रेझेंटेशन मोड मध्ये घेतलेलं नाहीये, त्यामुळे गेलं नाहीये त्यानंतर शेअरिंग करतात.
हा, मी मेसेज टाकला होता फुल स्क्रीन प्रेझेंटेशन मोड.
हा, पण ते लक्षात येत नाही ते मेसेजेस मधून. आपल्याला इंटरव्ह्यू करून सांगितलं तरच लक्षात येतं ते.
प्रेझेंटेशन मोड
आता इथं सस्टेनेबिलिटी दिसते आता.
नाही, पण हे प्रेझेंटेशन मोड मध्ये नाहीये.
प्रेझेंटेशन मोड मध्ये करा ना फुल स्क्रीन.
माझ्या इकडे आता प्रेझेंटेशन मोड मध्येच दिसतंय ते.
अच्छा, कारण का मगाशी होतं व्यवस्थित.
आता दिसू शकते तुम्हाला सस्टेनेबिलिटी?
हा, दिसते.
फुल स्क्रीन
प्रेझेंटेशन मोड मध्ये नाही दिसत आहे.
प्रेझेंटेशन मोड मध्ये दिसत नाही, पण दिसते आता.
त्यांना चेंज झालेलं कळणार नाहीये.
विश्वनाथ, कंट्रोल कुणाकडे आहे? त्यांनी कंट्रोल ज्यांच्याकडे आहे त्यांनी करायला पाहिजे ते.
नाही, सरांच्याकडेच आहे प्रेझेंटेशन.
Is it visible now?
एक मिनिट. हा, आता दिसते.
Yeah, now it is okay.
Presentation mode मध्ये visible.
So I am on same slide. Okay.
Same slide. Sustainability.
Yes, sustainability. and we were talking about the core competency. I gave the example of Blue Star AC, wherein they were providing all sorts of air conditioning solutions, and in the year 1997 or 6, they decided to only shift their focus and concentrate on centralized air conditioning, and their growth was like anything. Probably they could beat all the competition in the market, but saying that, they grew in all aspects thereafter as they changed their strategy. So finding what is your core competency and concentrating on those areas is something that one needs to do to ensure the sustainability in long term. Then comes this digital initiative, very crucial, as we all know that these are the turbulence times, and the survival is very necessary in this case, and technology drivers in the world are actually this IT infrastructural setups and automation, and one should not ignore them. Also, now work from home is a history. Now work from anywhere is the new concept. So if you know, Tata Consultancy Services, which is again a software company, has now declared that within next 2 to 3 years, 75% of their workforce would work from home, and they would save a lot of real estate and other fixed costs such as electricity, etc., office rentals, etc., after those couple of years. So now these things are changing, and to have a good sustainability, one should ensure that they are working around in advance on these particular areas. Now the last aspect, predictability. First important sub aspect of this predictability is priority setup. Now if we decide any task which we do to bifurcate into 4 categories, we can bifurcate in priority. 1 is always those tasks which are urgent as well as important. We give second priority to those tasks which are urgent but not that important. Third is which are not urgent but important, and fourth is neither urgent nor important. Now if we see, can we avoid this sequence? The answer is no, but usually we don't pay much attention to the part number 3 and 4, which means not urgent not and important, and not urgent not important. So can we take this pandemic scenario to work around these 2 areas, number 3 and 4, and see that if we can actually use that those tasks in a positive manner? For example, as the pandemic started, there was a huge number of workforce which suddenly became idle, and there was no work for them. So finding such pockets and giving them some task. For example, in one of the cases, those front end people who were not having enough work were asked to assess that how many customers they have since last 10 years, and say, for example, they have 500 customers and they are dealing with only 150 customers on a regular basis. Then the calls were made to all the remaining 350 customers with whom they had businesses relations before, maybe 4-5 years, 6 years, but currently there is no business, and they started approaching them and started checking whether there has been any requirement. And currently the situation is like that many people are not providing solutions. So if you are proactively going and approaching them, they are also happily ready to get services or products from you. So probably it would result into about 5% of the total revenue which could have been generated through this particular activity. So this is also important activity which can be done. Second would be IoT and IAIoT. Now these are the 2 concepts which are going to be the future of any field that we can imagine. Now IoT is a Internet of Things, and IAIoT is Industrial Automation Internet of Things. Now Internet of Things is a concept which is popular maybe not in India, but across the globe it has become so popular. Rather, I conduct some sessions for the freshly passed out chartered accountants to groom them for their overall personality and other soft skills, and just throwing some light on the current happenings, etc. So in that I keep a complete session on Internet of Things. Internet of Things would be something which is I'll just share one example for explaining what is IoT. Probably a few of you are already aware what is IoT. I'll just try to give you an example. I think I had visited Shenzhen, China in 2014, and there I'd gone to a mall. So I had to go to the urinal, and I saw two types of urinal. One was free, and the other was a paid urinal. So I was wondering why one is paid and why the other is free. So I just out of curiosity I went to the urinal which was with payment, and then there was some sensors fitted to the urinals, and when I came out on the screen near door, there was a complete urine analysis, the report of the urine which was ready on the screen by the time I finished in a minute's time and came out. So which usually takes a day or a day probably when we do our routine checkup here. So they see using internet with the regular day-to-day things and processing something which has not been done earlier is something that is called as Internet of Things. Now, having this concept into an industrial undertaking would be industrial automation, Internet of Things. So to give you one example, in one of the industry, one client of ours, which is situated in Bengaluru, has established a very conservative person with very less social, presence and social, presence, as well as association with not many industrial association, etc. Very conservative approach, but he has implemented all the robotics into his factory unit. Hardly visits a couple of days in a week to the factory, and everything is automated. You would not believe that the turnover is not huge. It's around 150 crores, but that 150 crores is achieved on just the basis of 4 workers and 2 admin staff. 6 workers, that's it. Everything else is robotic. So some barring the raw material delivery and some administrative work, I think most of the things are done by the automated procedures. So that is something that one can think of. Shifting focus from product to solution. This is very, very important. I will give you an example of Asian Paints. Now, Asian Paints used to only sell paints earlier. Now they observed that people need these painters as well. Every year or couple of years they paint their houses, etc. So forget the industrial undertakings. Asian Paints started giving solution for painting the residential houses also. So along with the paint, they also gave the solution of painting their houses. So one has to come up with some kind of solution to the end-to-end solution to the customers in order to retain the customer, because it is equally important to retail the customers in these difficult times. Similar to acquiring the new customers. Now the trade strategy, I'll quickly, we're just running out of time, so I'll try to quickly cover all the points. I think the organizers would be okay if I exceed some time. Is it okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So spreading strategy means offering shorter packages. If you consider 15 years ago situation, Cadbury was worth ₹25, and that time 25, maybe current time 250 or something. So if you go to shop now, even the Cadbury is available for ₹5. Shampoo was a luxury item back then. Now it is available in ₹1 sachet. So why they have done it, why they have changed their strategy of selling into short packages is that when it is available to the the lowest layer of the pyramid, then the quantum is high, and that is a strategy one should use. Spread it to the shorter packages to increase it to the maximum. Then expanding the horizon. Now, what do we mean by them? Exploring areas where we can sell the products which was not considered earlier. So I would like to give you one example of Mafatlal Group companies. They had a factory in Surat back in 1996, Navin Floron, and they used when their vice president Rishikesh Mafatlal came up and said that leave no country unvisited. So everybody was surprised as to why he's saying so, and why do they need to explore those countries for possible sales. Now in 1 year, their turnover grew from at that time it was around 125 crores to around 300 crores in about 1 year's time. So if you see, there are about 200 plus countries in the world. So if we think of zero-based budgeting, we can explore these horizons and try to maximum cover all these countries wherein we can sell. I think USA, Germany, and Europe is the most preferred countries, but other than that also one should look out for export opportunities. And currently the government is also encouraging the export, so you can tap that opportunity. And there are professionals who guide you end-to-end procedures of those areas, so one can exploit that opportunity. Then monitoring the competition. Now this is also very important. Who are our competitors? In usual time we don't have usual scenario, we don't have time to explore all these things, but who are our competition? What do they do? How do they offer it? At what rate they are offering? So keeping a close watch on all those aspects, and benchmarking all such small procedures. L&T is the best example in that. They are the master of benchmarking. So I think keeping a close watch on all those aspects and monitoring the competition would also help. And all these factors should be considered as far as predictability is concerned. So that was from my side for the part 1. If you allow, I will just quickly complete the part 2, which talks about the COVID and critical GST legal issues. Should I proceed?
Yeah, please.
Yeah. So certain legal issues that we are going to look into this particular presentation about GST is that employee and certain expenditure which are incurred and its allowability, the taxes which are paid on those expenditure and its allowability under GST. Also certain CSR expenses, corporate social responsibility expenses which are incurred during these difficult times and allowability of taxes paid on that. Also certain discounts or bad debts which are resulting because of COVID situation and GST liability on such sales. Then ITC on goods destroyed due to COVID, they are lying in the maybe go down and not getting sold, and then got perished, etc. Won't be applicable for core industrial setup, but certain goods which are perishable, etc. Then allowability of tax invoices which are not uploaded by their supplier. Now this is a classic case, so we'll talk about this also. So we'll start with some of the important expenses which are incurred during this COVID and lockdown phase, which includes food and beverages made available to the workers, hiring and leasing motor vehicles for transportation of workers, insurance facility made available to the workers, guest house or residential facility made available to the workers, then sanitizers, PPE kits and other medical facilities which were made available to the workers. Now, if you see, this COVID-19 situation was tackled by central government and state government, and also the local administration as it was delegated to the delegated by the central state government. So from where did those powers come? So the answer is Epidemic Disease Act 1897 and Disaster Management Act 2005. These are the two legislations from which those powers were given, and there were orders issued by Ministry of Home Affairs and which was binding on the states. I mean, the states could make a little change, but they can only make it more stringent. They cannot relax. That was the condition which was prevailing. So if we see the order dated 20th February 2020, means when the first lockdown was about to over. So there were guidelines and relaxations which were given and distributed to all the industrial establishment, commercial establishment, all the workplaces and offices. And there they mentioned about having a SOP, and SOP included everything like how the social distancing should be maintained and the capacity should be utilized to the extent of so many percentage, what should be done, what not should be done, how insurance should be provided or not, and then mask, etc. So everything was given in that particular SOP. So some of the pointers of the SOP are mediclaim insurance for the workers was made compulsory. I am talking about the original order of 20th April. Then when the order came, revised order came in May, this mediclaim insurance was removed from that order. So I will discuss about that law aspect of this removal also. Special transportation facility should be provided to the workers from when the unit is situated in a distant place. Then for industrial units which are in SEZ head, special economic zone, export oriented unit or industrial township, then they were supposed to make specific arrangement for the workers to stay near that area or in the premises itself, and to and from transportation which should be made available to the workers. So all these things were made compulsory for an industrial undertaking to continue operating when the lockdown was over. So the entrepreneurs ended up paying a lot of taxes on all these expenses. Now the moot question here is that whether the input tax credit on such taxes paid on these expenses is available or not. So if we assume the preconditions which are there in section 16 of CGST Act, it says that if there are 3-4 conditions which are satisfied, every expenditure which is in the course or furtherance of business which is incurred, that is available as a deduction. Now if we say, I mean, the input tax credit is available. So if we see what are these conditions, invoice is available, goods and services are received, the return is filed, and the supplier has paid the taxes. These are the 4 conditions. Now, provided that all these 4 conditions are satisfied, all the expenditure incurred in the course or furtherance of business, the taxes paid on that is eligible. But there is a specific section 17(5), which talks about a negative list of expenses, means blocked credits, means input tax credit on those specific list of expenses is never allowable. So all such expenses are eligible which are in the course or business course or furtherance of business, except the list which is given under 17(5). So 17(5), in that also there are specific sections and specific subsections, and in that category it says that certain set of expenditure are only allowable as far as the tax on them is concerned as an input tax credit if it is made obligatory for the employer to incur, number 1. Number 2, expenditure is towards the employee, and number 3, it is under any law for time being in force. So certain set of expenditure is and taxes paid on it will be available as input tax credit only if these 3 conditions are satisfied. Obligatory for employer by certain legislation, etc. Expenditure is towards the employee, and it is legislation is some law or any law for time being in force by any name. So for these conditions are applicable for certain set of expenses. What are those expenses? Food and beverage, rent a cab, life insurance, health insurance. So these are the expenses which are given. Now we have to actually assess every expenditure in 3 categories. Number 1 category, whether ITC is eligible under law. Then second category, whether it is eligible only if it is mandatory under this law, and whether it is covered by the guidelines. Why it is covered by the guidelines? Because it says the second condition is that it should be made compulsory to the employer to provide such expenditure, incur such expenditure under some law. Now that some law is 2 acts which I discussed and rules which are formed under that by Ministry of Home Affairs. Now considering life insurance, it is never eligible, but if it is mandatory by some law, then it is eligible, but it is not covered by the guidelines of Ministry of Home Affairs, so it is not available. So taxes on life insurance not available, but health insurance as it is mandatory by the law, also covered by the guidelines, it is eligible, but usually it is not available in GST. Now sanitizers, PPE kits and other medical facilities, you need not even go to the condition of eligibility whether it is mandatory or not, because it is similar to something like safety goggles, safety shoes, caps. It is something like that. So in my opinion, all these expenditure are eligible as far as the ITC on that is concerned. Food and beverages, yes, you have to check the condition. It is eligible, mandatory, yes, but is it covered by the guidelines? The answer is no. So no. A rent a cab, ITC eligible under Act? No. Eligible, mandatory? Yes. Covered by the guidelines? Also yes. Then finally eligible? Yes. Then guest house, ITC eligible under the Act law? Yes. So you even need not go to the eligibility criteria, because in the law there is no restriction. In GST law there is no restriction, so it is eligible. So for every such expenditure you have to go line by line item and actually correlate to these factors. Then considering the legality of orders, whether it is binding in nature or not, because there was one special leave petition which was filed with Supreme Court as far as the wages during the lockdown is concerned, and then the order was taken back by the Ministry of Home Affairs, that it is, which gives a clear indication that they cannot make it compulsory to pay wages during the lockdown. But considering the moral grounds, etc., many entrepreneurs have decided to pay it. Some of them have decided to go for 50%, etc., etc., because revised guidelines and original guidelines were never the same, and hence there is a confusion in respect of that. But while considering that expenditure, you should also note that the expenditure in personal nature has already been disallowed in some of the advance ruling cases. A Chennai Port Trust case is there. they rejected it being personal nature. Also, not for business purpose, saying that they rejected in Deen Dayal Port case, trust case. So one has to see. Now coming to the CSR activities, some entrepreneurs decided to distribute these medical materials, etc., to many affected peoples. So whether that expenditure is allowed. So there is a circular so and so number wherein FAQ is given, and that point number 4 covers that such expenditure is available. This is issued by Ministry of Corporate Affairs. Considering that whether the distribution of medical aid or any other aid is considered as a business expenditure as far as GST on it is concerned, then section 2 needs to be considered whether it is a business versus non-business. And then because if the expenditure is incurred which is not in the course of business, then such ITC needs to be reversed as far as GST rules are concerned. Rule number 42 read with section 17(2). Now whether CSR is business purpose or not business purpose, because ultimately that will decide its allowability. So usually I think one organization cannot survive and go ahead without complying with the regulations, and regulations make it compulsory to incur that CSR. So in my opinion, it is a business purpose expenditure, so credit should be allowed. But there is an advance ruling of Kerala 2019. It was during the flood times when Polycab Wires decided to provide certain materials and distribute it among the flood affected people. But that expenditure and input tax credit on the procurements of that was denied by the advance ruling authorities of Kerala. But let me tell you, these are advance ruling decisions, and advance ruling decisions are not law of the land. It is only applicable to the person who is applying for that particular advance ruling. But the ratio of those decisions can be drawn and considered while planning for taxes. Then discount or bad debts is as far as that is concerned. Many contracts concluded with discounted contract price or which resulted into bad debts, etc., considering the pandemic. Now I'll take one example. In January 2020, I'm taking January because it is a pre-COVID scenario. So normally X sells goods and to Y, and that contract was for 1 lakh rupees and issued an invoice for 1,18,000 because 18% is the tax rate that I'm assuming here. So Y asked for 20% discount at the time of making payment, and X also agrees because otherwise he is very doubtful about the recovery. So agrees to receive 94,400 instead of 1,18,000. So as a full and final payment. So ultimately gives discount of 20% on 1 lakh. So 20,000 plus GST on that, 23,600. Now, whether X is supposed to pay the tax entire 18,000 or the partial tax, which is only the tax on 18%, that is 14,400. That is the question. So the answer is given under section 15 of the GST. They have given certain conditions where the tax payment can be considered post discount, and those conditions are: terms of discounts are agreed before or at the time of supply, discount is linked to the specific invoice, and proportionate ITC is reversed by the recipient. So in this case, if this was agreed prior to this COVID, prior to this supply of 1 lakh units, that if payment is made within certain period, then 20% discount will be given to you. If that is agreed, or X and Y both mutually agree and establish that with the help of documentary evidence that there was an agreed term, maybe in the PO mentioned that this discount can be offered, etc., then X can only pay on the 80,000, the GST on the 80,000. But if the terms cannot be established and cannot be proven that it was agreed at the time of supply or before the time of supply, and this was a mere adjustment as far as the recoverability is concerned, then probably X will have to pay the entire 18,000, which is the tax on 1 lakh rupees, and he probably will have to pay it from his own pockets, because the condition of terms of discount agreed before or at the time of supply is not getting fulfilled in this particular scenario. Also, if they establish that the discounting terms were agreed at the time of supply in January only, and they produce that PO or copy wherein such term is mentioned, then what they can do is that X will issue a credit note to Y of 20,000 plus tax on that, that is 23,600 in total, and the Y, who is the recipient, will proportionately reverse the ITC on that 20,000, which he probably has claimed in the month of January when he received the goods. So that is the way the transaction can be concluded. Then what about ITC on goods destroyed by COVID? As I said, there are certain goods which probably lying at the godown, etc., got destroyed. So there is a section 17(5)(h) bit which talks about goods lost, stolen, destroyed, written off, or disposed of, or by disposed of by way of a free samples or gift. In that case, the ITC which was claimed earlier needs to be reversed. So again, this is coming from 75, which is a block credit category. So if there were purchases before COVID, and on all the input tax credit on those particular expenditure was claimed as an input tax credit in the returns, and then thereafter these goods are lost, then probably that person has to reverse all that particular input tax credit which he has claimed earlier, considering 17(5)(h). Now, allowability of tax invoices not uploaded by the supplier. Now, what happens to this? Notification 30/2020 of 3rd April 2020 gives a relaxation to Rule 36(4). Now, what is Rule 36(4)? Rule 36(4) says if person is supplying goods to you, and you are claiming the input tax credit, then the person who has supplied should show that particular invoice in his GSTR1, and that should get reflected into your GSTR2. Now that is called as a matching of invoice. Now whatever matching, you can avail the credit, but whatever is not matching, initially 20% of the matching amount you can take it on the provisional basis and then match it later on. But that was from 9th October to 1st January 2020. Now from 1st January 2020, that percentage of 20% got reduced to 10%, and thereafter the 10% only was allowed as a excess credit over the match credit wherever the supplier have not recorded their transaction into GSTR1. But this is not possible in this COVID pandemic scenario, because the due dates are deferred. There have been relaxation as far as the due dates are concerned, and hence that period from February 2020 till August 2020 it will be considered as a one period, and one has to match all the purchases from February to August in the month of September for the GSTR ones filed by their respective suppliers. And if there is no matching happening for those combined period, then the reversal can be done in the month of September. So up till September 2020 they have given a time, and probably in the near future they will extend this time further up to maybe March or etc. But that is just my guess. We'll have to wait for the notification and the strategic policy that the government takes on this particular aspect. But yes, there is a relaxation given to the taxpayer as far as this matching of invoices is concerned. So that was it from the second part of the session, and I hope that I could I exceeded the time actually, but I could at least cover maximum of the areas. So I think I would request the administrator to take it over from here, and if there are, I will be inviting, and if there are any questions before the.
Vishwanath, we will go for question answers. Hello, Vishwanath.
Yes, sir. We can go for question answers.
Yeah.
You can open the forum, sir. You can request, or you can start the question from your side. So now the question answer session has started. So I request all the participants, if you have any kind of query, any kind of question, so please ask to Mr. Kulkarni.
Well, presentation I think was so good that nobody has any question, Vishwanath. Looks like.
I would like to believe so, sir.
No, I mean, I was listening because I had earlier problem, Mr. Kulkarni, but I borrowed my colleague's laptop and then I could join also. Okay. But of course, it's on the different name. My name is not there in joining list.
Okay.
It's Parth, basically. My colleagues, I had taken it. But Vishwanath, as you said, that nobody has a question.
Actually, I have requested everyone. So those who have any question, they can ask directly. The forum is open. At least somebody should start first. Then people will continue the process. I can see here Mr. Prakash Koran Ganve, then Mr. Ravi Dole, Shardul Kumar Mali, Mr. Sheetar Ketkale, Mr. Mahesh Date, Mr. Mandar Kulkarni. So I saw many people are here. Mr. Sunil Battase.
Even my email address is mentioned on the screen. You can see. If you are not comfortable asking the question before forum, you can put a mail. I will reply to it.
That's a good idea, sir.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, Vishwanath.
Yes, sir.
Already we had given time of 4 to 5, and few people, they were having some commitments after 5:30.
Yes.
And since Kulkarni Sahib is from Kolhapur and already he has given all the details,
Yes.
They can approach him as per their conveniency. And
yes, fine, sir.
we'll go for a vote of thanks if anything. Yeah. Only Kulkarni Sahib, I think this legal issues and all that, whatever you have given the details, I think you can give us the PPT, we can circulate to our members.
Yes, sir, of course. I will share it on the mail so that you can distribute.
Yeah. Then Vishwanath will circulate to all the members.
Sure, sir.
Yeah. Now I'm coming to vote of thanks on behalf of CII. I thank Girish sir for the valuable thought-provoking session on surviving and thriving through COVID and critical legal GST issues. You have given a lot of live examples, local as well as global case studies, and definitely it has gone a long way. You have also thrown light on expected economy recovery on the 4 steps: liquidity, profitability, sustainability, and predictability. And also swiftly you covered on COVID and critical GST legal issues. Definitely the members, they will be in touch with you and they will take the advantage of your expertise. Once again, I thank you, Girish sir, and you will forward the PPT soon, and so that you will circulate to members. And last but not the least, I thank all the participants, Puranik sir and other members for the patient hearing. And on behalf of CII, I thank Girish sir for his valuable inputs. And I conclude that the session is over. And you can communicate or contact Mr. Girish as per your request.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mallar. Thank you.
Thank you,
sir. Thank you very much. Have a great
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a nice time.